Hi, I'm Sue Herrera, and I am here with your Principal Series edition for October, and our topic is internal relationships and systems that support that. Just a quick reminder that I do work for Step Up. I'm the Director of Instructional Development, recently retired principal of 11 years, and have been in education for 37 years. I've been a teacher, instructional coach, and as I said, most recently a principal. I'm always a champion for students, and I love to collaborate with school leaders. Those cute little faces on the screen are my grandchildren. We're going to start with John Hattie. John Hattie has a lot of research that he shares with us, and the one piece of research that we really cling to at Step Up is the one on collective efficacy. I'm going to read that with you just really quickly. The research on teachers' collective efficacy is consistent with an effect size of 1.34. Effective teacher teams have the power to accelerate student learning more than just about any other practice. Now, we spend a lot of time talking about this in the technical aspect when we look at our curriculum management tool and the way we have a scope and sequence where we have a guaranteed and viable delivery of all the priority standards. But we also want to talk about collective efficacy when it comes to the affective. And so that's really what this is about today. You know, effective teacher teams, people usually picture teachers on the same grade level or vertical teams sitting and collaborating around instructional practices or data. And that sense of efficacy or the belief that you can make a difference comes when we see an improvement, either in attendance or behavior or academics. I would like to suggest to you today that the very first effective teacher team that needs to be in place is the team between the school principal and the teacher. If that relationship, if that team is not solid and is not a strong foundation, then it's difficult, I feel, for principals and teachers to be the best they can be. And that's what I want to talk about today. It boils down to three areas: your commitment to building relationships, time that you're willing to commit, and that systems thinking, your ability to put practices into place that will support your emphasis on relationships and your commitment to making time to build those relationships. You know, when we look at a school day, we can divide it into three parts. So in order to build a relationship with your staff, you need to understand what matters most to them. And we all think that what matters most, obviously, is improving student learning and, you know, helping the whole child succeed. But there are other facets to educators. There are their professional goals, their aspirations, craft, part of what they're doing, the art and science of teaching that they want to improve upon. And then if you want to take the time, there are teachers that will share some things about, you know, who they are as a person outside of school. I'm an early riser. I always got to school early. And so the first part of my day was before contract time. I have vivid memories of walking up to my school when it's still dark outside, very few cars in the parking lot. And I knew that was going to be my time to check in with our kitchen experts, my custodian, and the before care staff, which was Link at the building where I was principal. And that was some of the best internal relationship building that I did as a principal. When your kitchen doesn't run smoothly, you feel it. And for us, we fed children 3 times, breakfast, lunch, and then after school. And so if it didn't run smoothly and you didn't have a good relationship with your kitchen experts, then it was not going to go well for you. It's time well spent. Some of the best people I've ever met and some of the strongest relationships I had were with our kitchen experts, our custodians, and our before care staff. Take the time. The next thing that I did was when contract time hit, which was still well before the kids were going to be there, I made sure at least once a week, sometimes twice if I could. When I first started out, I made a point to do it 3 to 5 times a week, so almost every day. We know that as the year gets going and things get busy, there's always things that take precedence, but that's your commitment to relationships and time to say, look, at least once a week, I'm going to visit every teacher in their classroom before children get there. Why is that important? Because it reduces the level of concern and stress when you go to a teacher's classroom rather than you making them come visit you. It also gives you a chance to walk around the room and compliment, hey, I really love that bulletin board. I like the way you put your student desks together. It definitely encourages collaboration. I like all the anchors in the room that kids can look at to help them when they're writing. And just strike up a conversation. How are you? How are things going? What are you proudest of this week? How's your family? 5 minutes in a classroom. And then I always try to meet with my lead team, and that's just maybe standing in the hallway or standing by the flagpole. And my lead team were those people that walk the walk with me every day. So it was my counselor, my instructional coach, and my social worker. And we would just touch base very quickly about what the day looked like, what was a high priority, and just checking in with them personally to see how they're doing. And then it was important to me to build internal relationships with my students and my families. And that starts by being the face they see as they walk in the front doors of the school. First part of the week, I'd spend time at the front door greeting students. And near the end, I would go to the middle doors where some of our younger students like to come in. And I often worked the car line or would like to be out front so that I could wave to parents, say hello to parents, greet the bus drivers. It is a system of support that makes a school successful. And if there are parts or facets of your school community who do not know you, do not know your face, do not know that you care, you are missing it on internal relationships. So all of this for me happens really before the kids get there and right when the students arrive. I haven't even done announcements yet. So then we get to the bulk of your day. So midday, you want to make sure, in the morning, you've been visible with saying greeting everyone. You've said hello to the teachers. You've done announcements. I often pop into every classroom once the children get there just to try to take a pulse of the building. Sometimes I say good morning. Sometimes I just pop my head in. But just getting a feel for the building. All of that happens before instruction begins. You don't want to interrupt instruction with your presence if you're just there to say hello. Midday, if I haven't been in classrooms, I make sure that I'm visible. So I'll go stand in the hallway to help kids with their lunch trays, to make sure students are walking in the hallway, whatever it is I need to do to make sure that I am visible. And I may pop into a few classrooms or visit a few students that might need to see my face. But I'm also mindful of the conversations I've had with teachers that looked extra tired to me, teachers that were excited about something they were getting ready to teach. I'm going to circle back and I'm going to show that I listened and show that I care. And I'm going to check back in with them on that great lesson they were excited to teach, or on, are they feeling better? How are you doing? We're going to make it to the end of the day. And then at the end of your day, I'm always thinking about what I need to do to make sure that the next day is successful. So sometimes the end of the day is nothing more than a quick email to staff. And on the announcements, when I'm dismissing the kids, I'll say, hey, staff, check your email real quick from store reminders about tomorrow. If it's a lot of loose ends that don't really relate, like we've got, picture day and we've got a PTO meeting and, we're going to have some walkthroughs and maybe we got a schedule change, I'm not going to put that in an email. I'll just say, hey, before contract time is over, meet me in the library. We're going to have a quick 5-minute meeting. And we literally have it standing up. And I give them the information. And so that's the final thoughts. What do you need to do for staff that lets them know that you're thinking ahead, that you're preparing? Because all of that affects the internal relationship. Teachers need to feel safe. They need to feel like you've got their back, and they absolutely need to know that you care. So those internal relationships of your entire staff in your building, but also the time you spend with your students and making yourself visible for parents and students is very important. So I put this graphic on the screen. I'm sure you have something similar, but it is just a flow chart that I created for myself to show how I connect with every single group in the building. So my lead team, my student groups, if you don't have 2 or 3 student groups, ways that students have a voice and a choice, you need to invest some time in that. Principals advisory would meet often. Sometimes it met once a month. Sometimes it met a couple of times a week if we were trying to decide something important. And it's one representative from every classroom. Some buildings have a student council. Ours worked better for a principal's advisory. I had a representative from specials, from SPED, had my instructional coach, had a primary and intermediate teacher, and we called that our building leadership team, and we met once a month. We celebrated and had discussions about what had just occurred, and we looked forward to the next month. Had committees that planned school-wide events and monitored culture and climate, and then each grade level had their own teams. And then your VIP stakeholders, these are all the people that make it work. Your PTA or PTO, caring for kids, community partners, on-site therapists, and your consultants that you bring in. So if you haven't taken the time to sit down and say, how do all of these connect? And have I missed a stakeholder group? Take time to do that, because that will give you a real clear picture of how you prioritize your internal relationships. I have a quote here that I thought was really apropos for what we're talking about. Building relationships is imperative to have a thriving school climate and culture. Creating those connections and positive culture together not only builds morale, but ignites growth and maximizes potential in all stakeholders. I am a servant leader at heart. That's the way I was raised. If I see something on the floor, I pick it up. If I see that someone has spilled something, I'm going to wipe it up because I don't want someone to fall. I dress to be in the trenches. I look nice, but you can tell I can get down and I can work. I can sit on the floor with kids and do flashcards. I can sit down next to a kindergartner and read a book with them. And I can grab a broom or a mop if I need to. That shows your staff how much you care. Not everyone leads that way and they're still successful. I'm saying that's what worked for me. I think when your staff sees how much you care and that there's no job beneath you, that you are able to get in and do whatever it takes to make the building run smoothly and safely, and that you see how all the dots connect, that establishes strong internal relationships. I did hook a document here that I was just going to show you. It's another way to kind of look at that one flow chart that I put up on the screen. And this was just, sometimes I like to see it in a table. I put the date, the focus of the meeting, who my participants were, and what was the main goal. And you can see that it's color-coded as I met with different stakeholders and for different purposes. But throughout the year, you can see that there are 4 to 5 different types of meetings each month. But I want to stop here and show you this red merged row. It happened twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year. So I had this red line here that represents the end of first quarter, and then the end of second quarter or beginning of third quarter, and then the very end of the year. And it was called rounding. And it was something that our previous superintendent introduced to us, Dr. Cargile, one of my personal heroes. She's in the Center School District now, doing great things. But she talked to us about the importance of rounding, about how you need to sit down with every staff member and you need to ask them consistent questions so that you can begin to see trends in your staff. And when you take the time to spend 5 to 8 minutes with every staff member and you record their answers on 3 to 4 specific questions, not only are you building a relationship with that staff member because you're giving them a voice and you're listening, but you're going to begin to see trends. I know you can do it informally in a survey, but sitting with someone and they know that you're going to talk to them 2 to 3 times a year consistently, I think it makes a difference. I always asked what's going well. And then I asked, who is someone that has been particularly helpful to you? And then what is something that you think that we need to improve upon as a staff? So those 3 questions drove everything. The question that was most interesting was the one where I asked, who's been most helpful to you? Because you begin to see who are those quiet giants in the building? Who are the ones that are always stepping up to the plate? Most of the time you know who they are, but sometimes you're surprised. And every time someone would mention a colleague's name, I would send them a little card or an email that said, hey, so-and-so mentioned you during rounding today as being someone who's been particularly helpful. Imagine how that feels as a colleague, that you know you've made a difference. That's strong internal relationships as well. So I am Sue Herrera at Step Up Consulting. This is my email. If you want to continue the conversation or offer more ideas about building internal relationships, we have really just hit the top of the iceberg. There's so many other things we could discuss, but now that we're at the beginning of second quarter, let's just be mindful of being in teachers' classrooms, of asking them those questions that pinpoint what matters most to them so that you can show how much you care, and take time to meet with your kitchen experts and say good morning, your custodians, and your before and after school care staff, not because you need something, but because you want to be visible and you want them to know that they matter. Have a great rest of second quarter. Winter break, I'll be here before we know it. I'll see you again soon.